right, so let's jump into it today. So last night, my wife and I were watching a show on TV, and during the show, there was an ad. And don't you love how we call them ads now, not commercials? There was an ad, and the ad was talking about all the spots that our data is out. Like it's like, oh, my data is. Oh, what you dropping? What you dropping over there? Um, our data is at the DMV. With like the oldest computers in history, right? Like that's where we're like, oh, you're going to protect my data. Our data is if you're on Amazon, you just bought something, they have it. Your data is with your kids' school. Your data is, everywhere that we're at and we're buying something, especially now with our phones where it's so easy to buy on our phone, scan your face, click to buy real quick. Our data is going out to all these different companies. And it said, do you realize how many places your data has been and is it protected at those spots? And I looked at Chrissy, I'm like, I have never thought of that. I've never thought, like, do I need like data insurance or something? I've just never thought of that. And it made me think of today's message. That today I'm going to ask you a question that maybe you've never even thought you needed to think of. And so I don't want you to get upset with me. I don't want you to get a hard heart. I don't want you bitter. I don't want you to have any of that mind, those preconceived notions. I just want to ask the question, have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about asking yourself about what I'm about to ask you? Because in our past, in our culture, we are raised when we are celebrating Christmas, right? We never think about really why do we celebrate? What are we doing? We don't think about that with Easter. We don't think about that with Thanksgiving. We don't think about that Valentine's Day. We don't really think about that with Halloween. We just do it because it's part of the culture. But really, when you stop and think, like, hey, well, I actually know why we celebrate Christmas. Because we're celebrating the birth of Jesus. I know why we celebrate Easter. We're celebrating the resurrection of Jesus. I know why we're celebrating Thanksgiving. I know why we're celebrating Valentine's Day. I know these certain things. But why do I celebrate Halloween? Is it because of candy? Because we can get candy all the time. Is it because of costume? Because my 3-year-old dresses up like Spider-Man every day. You got to get him a bigger costume. He's about to rip out of that thing. Is it because that we like to be scared? It's like why we go to knots and we go on roller coasters, right? Like we enjoy like, a little bit of fear. Why do we actually celebrate Halloween? And I remember when I was a kid loving Halloween. So I want you to understand, I'm not trying to beat you up if you celebrate Halloween, because I remember when I was probably 7, 8, 9 years old, going to my aunt's house, and we would watch scary movies. I remember going to my friend Trent's house, and we'd stay up at night, and we'd be watching like all the Friday the 13th movies. Like I remember my grandpa had these big tractors. And so he would put a trailer on the back of them and load them full of hay. And we'd go around the neighborhood dressed up for Halloween and going trick-or-treating and door to door. I remember these memories. So I'm not trying to make fun or condemn or anything with your memories, what you've experienced with family, with friends. But my question doesn't change. Why do we celebrate it? Because I bet you can remember times when you got dressed up. When you went door-to-door trick-or-treating, when you went to the party, when you're carving pumpkins, when you're painting pumpkins, you're doing all the things. But it's kind of something we just do without questioning. You may have heard this story before. I've heard plenty of pastors share this story that there's a mom who's getting ready to cook, Easter, Thanksgiving dinner, something. And she has the ham out, and she cuts off the ends of the ham and puts it in the baking pan and puts it in the oven. And the daughter says, Mom, why do you cut off the ends of the ham? She said, I don't know. It's just something that Grandma always did. So she calls up Grandma. Grandma, Mom's making dinner. She cut off the ends of the ham. Why do we cut off the ends of the ham? She said, I don't know. It's something that my mom always did. So she calls up her great-grandma. Great-grandma. Great-grandma's old. Why do we cut off the ends of the ham? She said, oh, that's simple. It's because the pan was too small. So the question, why do we celebrate Halloween? Do we do it just because our parents did it and our grandparents did it and our great-grandparents did it? See, we are all influenced by something. We're influenced by our parents. We're influenced by culture. And let me tell you, Halloween is very popular here in California. Everywhere I go, I mean, it is celebrated. And let me just say this. I get it, because things that our kids love, things that our parents love, things that our family love, it influences us to love those things too. Like, I'm a Notre Dame fan, so I am converting my children to being Notre Dame fans. It's hard when we don't win that much, but I'm trying. But they influence me. So I'm actually the assistant coach for my daughter's basketball team. And can I tell you something I would not be doing with my free time? I would not be coaching 5th and 6th grade girls playing basketball, because you know what? You're trying to teach these little girls how to play basketball, and they're in a circle just laughing and giggling the whole time. Like, we are on the basketball court. Pay attention. But my daughter influenced me because I love her. So I'm going to be on the court for her. We get influenced by culture. We get influenced by the Bible if you're a Christian. We get influenced by church, by small group. But we also get influenced by media. We get influenced by our family. We get influenced by TV. We get influenced by so many different things. There's a story in the Bible in Daniel chapter 3. I'm going to share some of the scripture. I'm also just going to give an overview on some of it. But so there's 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, they are living in Babylon. Okay, what happened is Israel, they were attacked, and now they are taken into Babylon as captives. Daniel was one of those men. Daniel becomes very prominent in leadership. The same thing happens to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But Nebuchadnezzar, who is the king of Babylon, creates and builds this huge statue and says, hey, when the trumpet sounds, everybody has to bow to this statue. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're there, and they don't bow. And now they were prominent also. That's why we even know about them. They were leaders. So what Nebuchadnezzar did is he took those prominent Israelis, these smart men, and he said, hey, I'm going to use you now in Babylon. And so I'm going to train you in the Babylon ways, but we want what you have. So here we have Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, smart men, loyal men. I mean, did everything Nebuchadnezzar said, except they followed God. And so when he says, you're going to bow to another idol, they said no. So somebody tells him, so he goes to them, like they have a relationship. They know each other. He says, did you guys say you will not bow to my idol, to this thing that I built? And they said, we will not. He said, you know, I said anyone who does not bow to this idol will be thrown into a fire. And this is what they said. This is verse 16. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you. And I love this. He says, your majesty. He's still honoring that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue that you have set up. This is what they said to him. I want you to think about that just even in your life. As we're talking about things that maybe we idolize. Things that we have lifted up above God. And it could be something that's a family tradition. It could be finances. It could be a job. It could be a sports team. Something that we idolize. When we come before God, are we able to say, I gave that thing up that I enjoyed because I want you more? Are we able to come before him? And this was just, a shout out. He's actually not here today. He had a medical emergency last night. But Omar, he's our security lead here at Vivid Church. And he works on Saturday night from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. He goes home and sleeps for an hour and then comes to church. And he's also a Raiders fan. And I know some of you, you're like, okay, I'm going to pray for that guy. I said the medical thing. You didn't even think about praying for him. But now that I said he's a Raiders fan, He literally said, I won't miss church because of work or because of a football game. I'll just record the game and watch it later. And so he will come in here and you'll see him. I mean, he is going off of an hour of sleep. But he's saying these other things are not my idols. My idol is Jesus. So what happens? Nebuchadnezzar says, all right, well, my law is my law. Tie them up, throw them in the fire. Oh, also, because I'm so upset with them, make the fire, I don't remember if it was 10 times hotter, 5 times hotter, okay? Build that sucker up. Get it going. I want them dead even before they touch the flames. So they are thrown into the fire. As a matter of fact, the fire was so hot that the guards that carried them to the fire actually died because of the heat. They were killed. And so now they're thrown into the fire, dead, story over. Okay, so let's move on. No, they didn't die. It says this in verse 24. Suddenly Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in amazement and exclaimed to his advisors, didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them into the furnace? Yes, your majesty, we certainly did, they replied. Look, Nebuchadnezzar shouted, I see 4 men unbound walking around in the fire unharmed, and the 4th looks like a god. Jesus is with them in the fire. Can I just tell you, when you start having conversations with your children, with your family, with your boss, with your employees, why we don't do certain things, it might feel like you're in a fire, but Jesus is in the fire with you. You are not alone in that fire. Our God is with you. That's what we're saying. It's his way, not my way. He's first, not me. And I think this is what's so important too. Even when you look at this, the only thing that burnt in that fire that was on Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was the ropes that bound them. You're going to get thrown in the fire, but when God is with you, the only thing that's going to get burnt up is the ropes that had you bound by the enemy. Can I ask you, are there some ropes that have been bounding you to things that you have been celebrating and doing that God is ready to free you from? There's a video that I want to show you guys right now. It's of a ex-Satanist. And he gives his life to Christ. He ends up becoming a pastor. I want you to hear his story as we're talking about Halloween and seeing that it's coming up and having the mindset, asking ourselves the question, is this an idol that I even know I was worshiping, but I haven't even asked, why am I celebrating this? Check out this video.
Well, should Christians celebrate Halloween? But a former Satanist who is now a pastor says no, Christians should not celebrate it. Tell us a little bit about where you were in relation to Satanism and worshiping the devil.
Well, 25 years, 8 years old, little boy, 8 years old, demon church, learned being trained by high-ranked devil worshippers, warlock, and spiritual witches. I was being trained all the way to the age of 35, sold my soul to the devil, got married in Halloween, had a demonic wedding in Halloween. I baptized my daughter to the dark side at the age of 11. So that was my whole entire life.
Knowing what you came from and what you used to do, you're pretty discouraged that you see Christians celebrating Halloween. Why?
I don't know how you can cheat on God. I don't know how you can cheat on the Lord Jesus Christ, because I don't see Satan as coming on Good Friday and coming hanging out with us, right? You know, I got married in Halloween, I had a demonic wedding. Why would you put your kids, your family, why would you put your purpose, your destiny, why would you put your whole eternity in a demonic altar?
But people say it's just fun, candy, kids are having costumes on. But you
but
said it's much more.
These candy, people from different walks of life pray over these candies. Witchcraft. They pray over the candies. You knock on people's door. You don't know if the person that you knock on the door, she's a witch. Okay? You don't know if she's a witch. She's doing Wicca. She's practicing New Age. And you knock on her door and you come in legal rights of this witch or this wall. This person's practicing this stuff, giving you this kind of candy. Mm-hmm. Now you're taking that stuff home. You put that stuff into your body. Mm-hmm. Amen? And on top of that, I'm Tom LaVaine said, out of his mouth, you know, he was the ruler of the Church of Satan, mm-hmm. right? Out of his mouth, he said, I want to thank every Christian parent for allowing their child to celebrate Halloween one time a year, the devil's holiday. And it took Adam and Eve to lose everything because of one mistake. It took Esau one circumstance to lose his birthrights.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So why would you bring that kind of curse into your house and curse your family from 3 to 4 generations?
I'm going to unpack a couple things when it comes to Halloween that some of us we didn't know. See, I actually didn't know that Halloween was a demonic holiday until we had at our old church an ex-witch who is now a Christian, and she travels around the U.S. Her name's Carol Kornecki. You can look her up on YouTube, watch some of her messages, until she came and she shared a story very similar to his. And when I realized what they actually do on Halloween, that witches, they're like, this is our Christmas. This is our Easter, that they cannot wait for. And then how we blindly walk into that because, well, it's candy, it's costumes, all those things, which I'm going to share a little bit of the history of Halloween with you guys in just a minute. But I'm going to have Michaela and Martha come up right now because Michaela actually was part of a small group with this pastor. And so he would share some of the stories he went through and dealt with. Thank you, Sergio. As a Satanist. And so I just wanted her to be able to share some more of that, to kind of unpack so we understand what this looks like. And even as we're having this discussion, I want you guys to know, in no way is this a beating anyone up over the head, making you feel bad, that you celebrate Halloween. This is a question that every Sunday when we come into visit, hey, Martha, bring yours over here so we can be in the center. This is something we should always be asking ourselves every Sunday. We should always be not just leaving here of like, oh, that was a good message. It's, okay, how is this changing me? How is this impacting me? So earlier, you shared a little bit. You know how to turn that on? Yeah, just hold it all the way. Earlier, you were sharing a little bit with me outside about him and your small group. Could you share a little bit about that? What it looked like, some of the stories he shared?
One of the stories, I was in his it's like a small group, but it was called his inner circle. So every week he would teach about different things, and Halloween was number one. They were so dedicated to Halloween, as an ex-Satanist and witchcraft and all that, and that they would fast a month ahead because they're preparing for this one day out of the year. And he would say that they would celebrate it, and he was the enemy is happy Christians celebrate this one holiday out of the year because they're giving their identity. If you dress up in a costume, you're actually giving your identity to the enemy, and that's why some people now are lost in the identity of that.
And then you were sharing with me also earlier some of the things that he would do when it came to if there was a siren down the road. Could you share what that looked like?
Yeah, he shared a lot about he would follow, he would hear the sirens and he would go to that neighborhood or follow the ambulance and the cops, and he would actually take blood that was spilled already from that accident or that murder, and even bones and stuff like that. So he would drink blood. He would be throughout the night worshiping the devil that he used to call daddy. And because he didn't have his father, he grew up in a broken home where his father dedicated him to Satan at 8. But he also had an experience before that in the neighborhood where he had an evangelist going to the neighborhood, and just because he missed him, he prayed over someone else and missed him, he felt rejected. And then he's like, this man rejected me, God rejected me, my father's rejected me. So he believed the lie that the enemy loved him. And so he called him daddy, and he worshipped him, and he drank blood, human blood, animal blood, and did a bunch of sacrifices. He had thousands of dollars of money that he spent on all these things that he would just do with rituals and stuff like that. And he would even say, I was one of the highest ranking in the region. They knew not to bother me or not to try to fight me or do anything because he was feared even in that community.
What else from either the cohorts or just from knowing about his history ties in with what he did in Halloween?
I said, like, she mentioned that they would prepare for that month, and they'll be casting spells, like even throughout, like at nighttime, they're casting spells, and they're even when you're sleeping, like I know that they talk about astral projection, and I don't want to go into that topic, that's another, but they would like pretty much be trying to first even believers because their target is believers. Sometimes you say, hey, I'm like, like I'm saved, everything is going to be good, but their target is to take down believers because if they want to hurt God, and you're his children, so they want to hurt him by hurting you. And so they're coming after you, and like she said, like he said it, like, even the devil is happy if you celebrate one day out of, or one night of the year with your children, and you're lending your children to the enemy. Their identities are being shifted and changed into that costume, like, and it can be just any, like, oh, this is not bad. This is not like, oh, the killer. It's not a scary one or anything like that, but you're giving yourself up to something that, maybe like, oh, after that, why did my child struggle so much with anger or is raging or anything like that? Well, it has been giving himself up to that every year, like same costume, different costume, movies and all that stuff. It's all portals and gateways for that.
Thank you, ladies. Was there anything else you want to share, Michaela?
There's another one where like he talks about what is Halloween actually, like what you're celebrating is like you're celebrating fear. And it's like when we're believers, it's like we cannot be in the middle. It's either we serve God or we serve the devil. And we can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out because like it's a holiday. It's just a holiday. Like my kids can go and have like fun, like time for family and parents to be together, but it's just like we're actually just celebrating fear, which is the opposite of what God is. He's loving, caring, love, like to be there for one another and all, and like that.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies. There's a couple more scriptures I want to go into. So would you put up, because I don't have my iPad, would you put up Deuteronomy for me? So it says, for example, never sacrifice your son or daughter as a burnt offering, and do not let your people practice fortune telling. Just so you guys know, like when it even comes to that, so me and Chrissy, whenever we pass a place like that's the fortune teller place, I mean, we, in the name of Jesus, we curse this place, that it will not do business, that they will not be able to use, because fortune telling is demonic. And so it says, fortune telling, use sorcery, or interpret omens, or engage in witchcraft. Now, again, some people might think, well, witchcraft, we're not really engaging in it. We're just dressing up like, X, Y, and Z. But there is no or casting spells or function as mediums or psychics or call forth the spirits of the dead. So this is what I want to talk about with Halloween, okay? When it comes to even that, what we just read about spirits of the dead. The origins behind Halloween, it was a Celtic tradition that around this time, a year, they believed that the spiritual realm got thinner, and so that the spiritual realm would cross into the physical realm. And so they believed that there would be demons, there would be ghosts, there would be the dead that would be walking and trying to torment them, trying to haunt them. So the way that they decided to protect themselves was to dress up like the dead, to dress up like a demon, to dress up like a ghost. Costumes come from that tradition. Dressing up like a demon, like a ghost, because I'm hiding myself from the demonic realm. They will think I'm a demon too. They will not haunt me. That's actually where costumes come from for Halloween. I never knew that. I did not know that. I just thought, again, it's just fun. It's just tradition. We're just getting dressed up. I remember I loved getting dressed up on Halloween. I loved Batman when I was younger, so there's times I was Batman, there's times I was Two-Face, there was times that I was a Ghostbuster, a Ninja Turtle, a very chubby Ninja Turtle, because I was big when I was little. But nonetheless, I loved getting dressed up in this stuff. And then mumming, which I just described, the costume, it's actually an ancient tradition where people would dress up in costumes, like I just said. That's what it was called. It was called mumming, as ghosts, as demons, and they would go door to door performing acts such as singing, dancing, or playing tricks in exchange for food, drink, or money. Does that sound like trick-or-treating to you guys? That's what it is today. So again, something that was taken demonic, we are trying to take and redeem and say, well, it's just fun for kids. But I'm not trying to make my neighbors feel bad. But I took some pictures of my neighbors' houses. Can I show you guys my neighborhood? Does any of this, does that look like Jesus to anybody? Does that look like kingdom-minded to anybody? Does that look demonic to anybody? Okay, just making sure. So when we go to the park now, we have to have our kids looking one way so they don't see houses, or they have to shut their eyes. And we do that because we're trying to protect them. But our culture says this is normal. That's why even starting in January, we're going to be doing I don't know if it's going to be the word of the year, if it's going to be what we're going to go on, but just truly kingdom culture, because our culture says this is normal. Matter of fact, two of my neighbors are here, and they actually live right next to this house, and they were bringing up, because they have a beautiful little girl. She's 3 or 4. 3. So she's the same age as my son. And they hang out and play, and they told our neighbors, hey, her window is right by the front. It's really scary. Can you maybe put it back further, move it to the side, not put it up at all? And they told them, you know what would help your daughter? You should get her to start watching scary movies. That's the culture we're in. Isn't that crazy? But what, again, the culture tries to do to you, to me, to our children, lie to us to say, hey, this is okay to celebrate because you're a Power Ranger. You're dressing them up as a Ninja Turtle, not as a demon. You're dressing them up as a Ghostbuster. You're dressing them up as fill in the blank. But when we go back to the origins, it's all demonic. And has anybody ever seen Christmas with images like this? You can't redeem this. This is the devil's holiday. Because some people here, you might say, well, Christmas has pagan history, Easter has pagan history, all these things that we could all come up. But you can easily see that all of that has been redeemed. When you think of Christmas, you think nothing except the Son of God. You think nothing about it's all about the birth of Jesus. When you think of Easter, even if they try to throw Easter bunny and all this stuff, we know it's the resurrection. This is just pure demonic. And I live in this neighborhood. Ephesians 5:11. And I want you to hear my heart, okay? If you're not a Christian, I hope you're getting educated on this, that it is because here's the thing. Martha and Michaela just said it. If you're not a Christian, spirits are still trying to get on you and influence you. If you are a Christian, they use the word believers. It's because we believe in the resurrection of Jesus Christ, in case you're I've never heard that term. As a Christian, understanding, when you start saying, I'm going to this side, this is my team, the other team now is painting a bigger target on your back. That's why witches, warlocks, they will be praying over that candy for it to affect you. They will be praying. And man, when Martha and Michaela talked about this, that they fast, I didn't know that witches did that. That they actually fast to attack us. And that's why as believers, Jesus didn't say, if you fast, he says when you fast. Because fasting is us just taking a break from food that we're hey, this is going to satisfy me, fulfill me. We're saying, no, that's not going to fulfill me. Jesus is going to fulfill me. And I'm spending more time with him. I'm telling you what, we even have to be prayed up and knowing going into Halloween that we really should be fasting against witches, against warlocks, against demons, spirits, and what they're trying to do to our children, to our family. Ephesians 5:11 have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. Again, I'm not trying to beat anybody up. I hope you feel this is a grace-filled message. This is just teaching you what maybe you never learned before. Because you've just celebrated Halloween because it's just what you did as a kid. It's what your parents did as a kid. But now if you're a Christian and we read Ephesians, it says that we do not celebrate fruitless deeds of darkness, but we expose them. As your pastor, I'm exposing Halloween. as your pastor, I'm exposing the darkness. Now you have to decide, just like every Sunday, after we teach a message, you have to decide what you're going to do with this. I can't be showing up at your house and be like, hey, bro, you celebrating Halloween? Like, that's up to you. That's on you. But I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't teach you this, especially when it's so big. That's why even like these next 2 weeks, we're really teaching like kingdom culture. Next week, we're hitting on politics. And so many people are like, no, the politics shouldn't be in church. You know what? People who say that, I know who they are. They're people who haven't read the Bible. You know the whole Old Testament? It's literally all about the kingdom. When you look at Israel, it's about a kingdom. It's politics. How things are set up, how you have a king, how you have judges, how things are ran. The reason we don't want to bring God into it is because we don't want God to dictate the way we vote, because I like this person more than the other person, because I like maybe what I'm going to get from this person. Sometimes I'm like, I just don't care if I offend you, because I'd rather offend you to heaven than love you to hell. Don't follow. Can I tell you this? If you're checking this out for the first time and you're like, I'm trying to find a church that's for me, don't find a church that tells you everything you want to hear. My wife doesn't tell me everything I want to hear. You know what I'm saying, Sergio? That ain't a good wife, is it? Our wife, they're like the Holy Spirit. They tell us what we need to hear. I'm just trying to help you out. Some of you need to hear this. I needed to hear this. I just admitted I didn't know this. I was on staff at a church. I was like, what? 1 Thessalonians 5:22, abstain from every form of evil. Every form of evil. I just showed you images from my neighborhood, and we all agreed that looks evil. We abstain from it. We don't do it. On Halloween, we pull our kids from school. They don't go to school. They don't celebrate. I don't care if it's a harvest party. I don't care if it's trunk or treat. And can I tell you why? Estorgio, there's a plate over there with a brownie. Would you give that to me? Come on up here, Estorgio. You like brownies? Okay. He said, look at me. He likes brownies. All right. So this brownie is organic, homemade, with the best milk and best eggs and best flour and all the jazz. I want you to take a bite of that. Why not? Who made it? My wife. You don't want to take a bite? It looks good. I just told you everything that was in it. He's good. Well, I forgot to tell you one ingredient. So I have a dog, Rockney, golden doodle. Well, the other day, he made a mess in the front yard. And so as my kids were picking it up, I was like, you know what? I bet a little bit of that would be good in the brownies. So there's just, it's the smallest amount of poop in that brownies. It's the smallest amount. But that brownie is still delicious. Look at that. That looks, you can't tell that, right? You can't tell anything's in that brownie. That looks good. Does anybody else want to have a bite of this now? It's organic. I told you that. I got all the stuff at Trader Joe's. The only thing I didn't get there was my dog's poop. Would anybody have eaten that without knowing that there was dog's poop in it? Yeah, you would have eaten it, right? Well, so as soon as I say there's just a little bit of poop in it, you're like, no. Why is it then that we're willing to celebrate something to say, oh, well, it's just dressing up for my kids. It's just trunk or treat. It's just a harvest fest. We're trying to redeem it, but there's still a little bit of poop in it. I'm just trying to help you out. Because sometimes we're like, it's not a big deal. Isn't it? Here, eat this brownie. If it's not a big deal, that little bit's not a big deal. Now, that'll make you sick. But what is Halloween doing to your spirit? What is it doing to your kid's spirit? What's it doing to their soul? My daughter, thanks, Estorgio. You can take your brownie. My 10-year-old daughter, because we're raising this. We're in a series right now at church called Seeds, where we're planting seeds and we want to see good fruit from it. We've been planting these seeds over years. And they go to a Christian school, and she told me, I was dropping her off on Monday or Tuesday. She said, hey, Dad, my teacher got like an email from a publisher, and they want us to write scary stories because maybe it'll be published in, their book for kids. And, like I'm trying to give the teacher the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, oh, well, maybe it's like, it's scary if you go to Disney and you get lost from, mom and dad. Like, that's scary. She's like, no, Dad, it's about Halloween. I said, okay, I'll email him and let him know. She told me that because of seeds I've been planting in her, that we do not play with anything of the devil, anything evil. I didn't have to find out, like, hey, why are you writing a scary story? We don't do that. I didn't have to hound her. She brought it to me. My 7-year-old Vivi, who's like me, is more like probably going to hide something. She told us that some kids were playing a game. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's called like Mummy, Wake Up, something like that. Yeah, I know. And did they pretend? Yeah, like someone's shaking their head back. Oh, yeah, they get it. It's a game. I don't know. You pretend you're dead, and then you're a mummy, you raise up. And she told us. We're like, guess what? We're not playing that game anymore. She was at somebody's birthday party. Chrissy was there. Vivi came out of the room and just started cuddling Chrissy. And once Vivi's cuddling you, like in a social place, you're like, something's up, because she's a social butterfly. She's like me. She wants to talk to everybody. By the way, if I haven't met you yet, I want to talk to you. She was cuddling with Chrissy, and Chrissy's like, what's going on? She said, they're playing that game in that game. She told us before. She was in a room. She could have been playing all by herself or with them and not say anything, but she came out and she shared with us. The reason I'm sharing this, parents, the things that you are sharing and teaching and training your kids up today is who they will become tomorrow. If you want them to be a follower of Jesus, you don't wait until they're teenagers. You start today. My 3-year-old son, every night, he wants 2 things at bedtime. He wants a story about superheroes, and he wants to read the Bible. And there's times I am tired and I am cranky, right? If you're a parent, like you lay them down once, you got 5 more times to lay them down. They don't stay in bed. I'm like, when my son wants to read the Bible, I'm going to read it with him. And there's a Bible app. It's a cartoon. We go through it. But I can't wait until he's 15 years old to start planting these seeds. It matters. And I'm just saying, for some of you, your parents, your grandma, your grandparents, your aunt, your uncle, somebody who is leading you, they planted a seed in you that some things that this culture celebrates is okay. And now it's up to you, because you're an adult, to do the research. And if you're a Christian, to look through the lens of the Bible. To look through the lens of the Bible and not just what you enjoy, what you feel, what you want to do, what you're used to. And to say, God, are you showing me that I shouldn't be doing X, Y, or Z? This is the last scripture, and we're going to wrap up. Romans 12:2 says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. We have some work to do, because this world wants us to conform to the ways of this world. But if you're a follower of Jesus, if you are a Christian, we have to renew our mind. And that means get rid of some old, stinking thinking. I'll have everybody stand to their feet right now. This is something we like to do at Vivid Church at this time. We like to do a response. And you might respond in a way of worshiping. You might respond in a way of giving, where we have our giving box over there. You could respond in taking communion. If you're a Christian, we have communion over here. We have candles over here. Candles aren't magical. It's a way to respond, to say, God, I'm praying that you're going to get a hold of this person's heart. It's just a response. This is a time for you to talk with God. And this could be a time where you're responding to God and saying, God, I never knew any of this about Halloween. I didn't know that ex-Satanists would fast up to this. I didn't know that this is witches' favorite holiday. I didn't realize that. I thought it was just trick-or-treating. I didn't realize that it stemmed from the Celts and their hiding themselves from demons by dressing like demons. I didn't know that they would go door to door and knock to get food, or they're going to play tricks dressed like demons. I didn't realize any of that. This is the time for you to respond in the way that He's speaking to your heart. And what I'd ask, please, don't be offended by what I've said. This is a time for you. You can even look up the scripture yourself. God, did you really say this? I'm just the mailman. I've said this before. I'm just delivering what He has written. This is a time for all of us to be prayerful, to worship. So let's go into a time of worship, a time to respond, a time to see what God's calling us out of. And if you need prayer, if you're at a spot right now where you're like, dude, I am way into Halloween, and I do practice witchcraft, and I do practice whatever it is. And maybe it's not even practicing witchcraft. I'm just going to invite you, if you need prayer, we're going to have a couple people up here for prayer, and then we're going to have a couple people in the back. 13, you guys can go to your spots right now. And I'm going to be up here too, so if anybody needs prayer. But this is a time for us to respond. Hey, thanks for watching today. Listen, if you want to continue to grow with Jesus, I want you to click this video right here because it's going to take you deeper.